How tech companies cloned Clubhouse into extinction. By now, everyone has heard about Clubhouse, the social media app that uses audio rather than text as its main feature. Users of the app can communicate in audio form in chat rooms that accommodate groups of thousands of people. Each room is hosted by one or few speakers, while the number of how many people can tune in is endless. Such capabilities opened a whole new world for social media and us users. By the time of Clubhouse's rise, mainstream apps like Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and the like had yet to implement this interactive form of connectivity. Considering these companies are worth hundreds of billions of dollars combined, it is surprising why they hadn't yet adopted this form of communication as one of its features. On the surface, Clubhouse's audio chat rooms make other apps like Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook seem like relics. Because of the lack of innovation by these companies in this specific area, Clubhouse quickly surged to become one of the most downloaded apps when it started gaining popularity. But then, the party came to an end when big tech adapted to the new consumer demand, and Clubhouse's downloads dipped dramatically. Today, we look at the rise, the fall, and the comeback of Clubhouse. Clubhouse initially launched in March, along with the COVID-19 pandemic in the US, but it remained as a tiny community consisting of venture capitalists and those connected to the creators of the app. A month later, it received a $12 million investment from Andreessen Horowitz, a very respected venture capital firm in Silicon Valley. Clubhouse had a mere 1,500 user database at the time, but Andreessen Horowitz's investment put a $100 million valuation on the company. The company didn't acquire much popularity for the next few months among social media users, but tech companies became increasingly interested in Clubhouse's use of audio in social media. Twitter tried to acquire the company at a $4 billion valuation. Ultimately, talks about a possible acquisition fell apart, and Twitter launched its own version of the app, but the news made headlines, and Clubhouse's popularity surged during the pandemic. Clubhouse is a much more interactive version of Twitter, which is perhaps why the tech giant was so eager to acquire it, and later developed its own version. Like Twitter, Clubhouse allows its users to connect to a single individual and see what they're thinking or what they plan to do next. It's a much more spontaneous interaction than what Instagram or Facebook offer. The main difference between the two is that Clubhouse lets you hear what people are thinking instead of relying on text. For group calls, it's like chiming in on a phone call, but on a massive scale. Essentially, Clubhouse takes Twitter's concept and applies it to audio. The proof of concept came when Elon Musk joined a Clubhouse room in January. His call drew in so many people that the room became the most populated room the app had ever seen since its creation. Elon Musk is known for making a stock go flat or sending it to the moon, whether that is his own company, Tesla, other stocks, or cryptocurrency. The social media startup was yet another proof of his influence. Overnight, Clubhouse became a sensation. Musk's presence on the app brought other celebrities to join the fray. Mark Zuckerberg soon went on Clubhouse to discuss the future of technology. Bill Gates made a conference call on Clubhouse too, and Oprah Winfrey, Justin Bieber, Jared Leto, Drake, and Kevin Hart began to use the app to interact with their fans. Many public personas followed. Clubhouse's popularity skyrocketed. The next month, the app skyrocketed in downloads, becoming Apple Store's most downloaded app overnight, with over 3 million downloads when celebrities began using Clubhouse, and 10 million during the month of February, a month after the fandom began. But as they say, easy come, easy go, and Clubhouse's popularity fell off a cliff just a month later, with downloads consequently dropping by the millions. In April of this year, downloads of Clubhouse plummeted to less than 1 million downloads in a month, the lowest levels since the app first gained steam. Since February, the total percentage decrease was 89%. Clubhouse had amassed huge popularity for offering a new service to a much saturated market, but the massive growth it had once enjoyed was no longer. The tragic problem for Clubhouse is that there's nothing proprietary about its technology. While the company did bring something novel to the market, the technology needed to make that novel use wasn't really that complex. In other words, replicating something like Clubhouse wasn't all that hard. It's just that these massive companies hadn't thought of it before. It's especially easy when you have billions of dollars and millions of investors ready to jump on a new venture and grow the company even more. After failing to acquire the app, Twitter announced it would create its own version of Clubhouse. When Twitter finally launched Spaces to the public, It even included features Clubhouse didn't have, like the ability to host a room to all accounts with more than 600 or more followers on Twitter. Clubhouse was still struggling with expanding its capacity, so it had to put limit on the size of the rooms. But Twitter has been working on this technology since 2006, so it was much easier for them to offer more features than Clubhouse. Facebook soon announced it would launch its own audio social media app called Hotline, much on the lines of Clubhouse. Clubhouse downloads dipped once again, and people began seriously questioning the future of the app. During April, other tech companies followed. LinkedIn, Slack, and Spotify all announced they would be integrating live audio chat into their apps. Clubhouse was barely a year old, but tech companies were already launching their own versions of the app. As the steam around the startup died off, and many users returned to their old platforms, it was clear that big tech had cloned Clubhouse into extinction. The pandemic has also been part of the issue. Part of Clubhouse's success was undoubtedly due to the pandemic. People across the globe had been on lockdown for several months. They were away from their friends and families, working from home, and were stuck with using the old social media apps on the market. Clubhouse came in and offered something new. Success followed, but the pandemic is coming to an end. States have opened up, and people are returning to work in person. People who needed this app no longer do, and it's becoming more obsolete as we get rid of COVID. Only 2 months after Clubhouse was founded, the startup was worth $100 million. A few months later, it reached a $1 billion valuation. That valuation increased to $4 billion when Twitter tried to acquire the app. Now that excitement over the app is dwindling, it's not a question of whether it can continue this growth, but if it can at all survive. Clubhouse enthusiasts see things differently. Alex Heath, a reporter for The Information, shared internal marketing data which reports that there is, on average, 300,000 successful rooms created every day on the platform. A successful room is one in which people spend around 60 minutes listening to each other ramble about everything, from cryptocurrencies to shopping or getting to know each other. In other words, Clubhouse counts on the loyalty of the many users which frequent these successful rooms. It is worth noting that Clubhouse offers a great interface and has moved fast to improve capabilities, like expanding the number of listeners its rooms can hold and how it can monetize from these rooms. It also seems that it has garnered some brand loyalty, as people want to use the app for this audio purposes, while they might use Twitter for text. Clubhouse downloads are up again, although not at the same numbers when it peaked in February. There's hope remaining for the company, but it must adapt to the end of the pandemic and the fact that its main competitors have already developed their own versions of audio chat rooms. The continuous growth of tech companies has undoubtedly led to Clubhouse's demise, but the truth is that it is not necessarily because big tech wanted to sink the startup. After all, Clubhouse had a mere 10 million active users at its peak, whereas Facebook has almost 3 billion active users. Clubhouse's market share and valuation are also minute compared to other tech companies. Clubhouse is barely worth 3% of Snapchat. In other words, Clubhouse didn't necessarily present big tech with a massive amount of competition, but it presented them with an opportunity. Earlier, we said that there's nothing proprietary about this technology. Clubhouse simply cannot patent its use of audio chat rooms, like Snapchat cannot patent its use of stories, which other social media platforms like Instagram soon adopted. Tech companies started copying Clubhouse because using audio chat rooms was a great, novel idea that wasn't so hard to make. In the process, they obliterated Clubhouse's possibility of becoming a part of big tech itself. Hope still stands for the company as it makes a return and expands into different markets, like Androids. Only time will tell what happens to the once revolutionary startup.